Welcome to the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation Introduction to Curriculum and Sample Activity. My name is Kerri Flynn, and I'll be walking you through this today. The Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation was established in 1993 to commemorate, research, and educate about the more than 100 million victims of communism worldwide. The Victims of Communism St. Louis Commission was recently established to help educate the region about the resurgence in communist activity in St. Louis and to help better educate civilians and citizens so that they can make better informed decisions about who they are voting for. My name is Kerri Flynn. I am your presenter today. I'm a 2017 alum of the Victims of Communism National Seminar for middle and high school students in Washington, D.C. I currently teach in Washington High School in Washington, Missouri. I am currently serving as the Education Outreach Coordinator for the Victims of Communism St. Louis Commission. I would like to now take you to the Victims of Communism Curriculum Kit. This is an online kit that you will have a link to at the end of this presentation. There are ready-made lessons available to you. You can use these however you want. Sometimes I use an entire unit. Sometimes I just use particular activities that suit my goals and my needs. Just to give you an idea of what all is available in this curriculum, I'm going to show you the table of contents, but pretty much it's going to cover anything that you might need, and they are still creating new pieces. So by joining in and receiving this curriculum, you will also be on an email list to receive new inserts as they are made by the VOC in Washington, D.C. Today, I want to start you with a little activity that I like to start with my students. I teach a human rights and genocide class, and part of our study is about the Holodomor. So we do engage in some understanding of what communism is, what it was like, and what it looks like currently today. So one thing I like my students to start with is this activity. It's called If I Were a Marxist. And what they have to do is rank these statements by most tolerable to least tolerable. I use a little variation on the direction. You can do it exactly as the directions say to do, or most of these activities you can adjust so it suits your needs and it suits your students' needs. By having them do this activity together in class, they really begin to think deeply about what this would have meant for their lives if they were living during the Bolshevik Revolution, or if they were living under a Marxist government, such as the Soviet Union or China today. So this begins our discussion about what communism, how that would impact our daily lives. I would like to now show you an entire unit and kind of talk about what you can do, how you can make adjustments, and what I use and how I find it useful. So I make sure to teach my students about Lenin. I also teach them about Stalin, but we start with Lenin because it's what we begin with when we start talking about the Bolshevik Revolution leading up to Lenin's death, and then Stalin and the Holodomor. Now, Lenin is no angel, so we make sure to dig into how many people died under his leadership. And in his death, because he just didn't live very long, and kind of talk about what could have been happening there. So one of the fun things you can do, you can use these create the context where we're talking about different concepts like liberty, freedom, revolution. There's other activities from other units that work really well with this as well, that will help set your kids up if you have that kind of time and you have that kind of classroom setting. One of the things I really like if I need a quick hit of information, this curriculum kit has background essays for each unit. And so that gives my kids a front back reading with questions if I choose to assign those questions or not, but it lets them get a quick hit of information that I know is factual, it's relevant, and it's accurate. There are primary source activities also, which I think are very, very valuable. As a history teacher, I'm sure most of us would agree. We like to use our primary sources as well. But then there's also secondary and creative sources that make engaging activities and allow students to engage in critical thinking. So the activity I want to walk you through today is going to be this one. This is criminal character cards, and the kids have to read the descriptions and then decide where they fit on a certain chart. I'll show you this in just a second. There are assessment ideas for you to engage in as well, depending on how you want to use this and how you want to set this up in your classroom, and wrap up activities. So really, depending on how much time you have, there are plenty of ideas here for you to make connections, to do long-term assessment, as well as different links to help you get more information for your students. Here's this background essay I was telling you about. This one is called Exterminating Harmful Insects. In this, it gives us a quick background into Lenin, into Marxism, how Lenin used Marxism, and how he exploited this during the Bolshevik Revolution and the Russian Revolution, as it's also known. Here are the quick questions, pretty much just tier 1 questions, making sure students understood what they read. But again, it's just it's just a helpful way of getting started in this topic. Here's our primary source activity. These are quotes directly from Lenin. So then the kids would have to paraphrase them. So this is not only using our primary sources and getting to know a little bit more about Lenin through his own words, but also it's a great ELA activity because we're paraphrasing and we're synthesizing that information. In each unit, there is vocabulary. So the kids may not be familiar with some of these terms, but here it is provided for them. You could also make up little activities in Google Forms for them to do this. Mostly we just talk about the words ourselves. But again, you can set that up however it works for you. So here's the activity that I really enjoy using with my students. These are the criminal character cards. These are all based on potentially real people, but they are fictitious, but they use basic facts and information from the time period to create these characters. The students have to go through, and what I do is I cut these out and I give them, in years where we can use groups, I have them get together in a small group, read through their person, and decide what they think about them, making sure that they're getting out the main facts, the main characteristics, those kinds of things. And then we share together as a whole class who is doing what. So here is our chart that we use, which is probably going to help you make sense of what I'm talking about. For example, I would give Anatoly Ovechkin to a group. They would have to fill in the occupation, the class, the family background, and the education and training. And then as a whole group, we would discuss Anatoly, and they would have to explain Anatoly to the rest of their classmates and then explain why he would or would not be a criminal based on Lenin's perspective in the Bolshevik Revolution. So I do notice that with this activity, because they're not necessarily always very familiar with Russian society, that I do have to do some explanation for some of them, which I feel like is a great way of them understanding another culture and helping them interpret what's going on. But they also get to have discussions with their peers about, well, why isn't education so dangerous? Which is, of course, part of understanding why totalitarian states function the way they do and why rulers function the way they do and what they're afraid of. This is a really fun and engaging activity. You could do it as a jigsaw as well. So I highly recommend this one. And then you can see we're moving on to the Stalin unit. So I'm hopeful that you enjoyed seeing how I use it as another teacher and that you are interested in receiving your free copy of this teaching curriculum. You can scan the code here if you have a phone, or you can use your digital camera. You can pause here. Potentially you can click on the link if that's an option. But you will need to fill out the form so that we can have a little bit of information to better serve you. The Victims of Communism Witness Project. This is the Victims of Communists in Washington, D.C. They have begun preserving testimonies of survivors of communism. So if you're needing another primary source and you want to hear from a survivor, this is a great link to use to go get those stories. They are from all over the world. As I mentioned earlier, I am a 2017 fellow from the Memorial Foundation. This is the link to their fellowship program. It's typically in July. The application is open for this summer, 2021. If meeting in person in Washington, D.C. doesn't become an option because, COVID, they will be able to do this online as well. And this is a wonderful program, highly informative. I learned so much about communism that I thought I knew, but I really didn't know. So if you are interested in pursuing your understanding of communism further, this is an excellent way of getting that information. And here's my contact information if you should need to get a hold of me. I'm more than happy to talk to you about the program, talk to you about the curriculum, and help you on your journey to better understanding our world. Thanks for joining me today. Have a lovely day.